Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. Hi friends, how are you today? My name is T. My job is spilling the tea on all things true crime. So if you're interested in true crime, I would highly suggest you hit that subscribe button because I'm here for you almost every day. But enough of my jibber jabber, let me get started. And by the way, if you like the video, do me a favor, smash the like button. It's a free way you can help. Now let's dig in. Hi friends, how you doing? T here. I am just back from the dentist and the left side of my mouth is not cooperating. So I do apologize if I sound a little funny. Trisha of the YouTube channel Websleuths found herself with quite the panel last Saturday night. Her live show featured one of the two private investigators that Sebastian Rogers' father, Seth, has hired to try and find his missing 15-year-old son. It was a 3-hour plus show. I listened to it in its entirety. It's fascinating because about an hour into the discussion, Sebastian's stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, turned up on the panel. And later, Seth Rogers dialed in as well. And boy, oh boy, did we get a taste of what the current dynamic is between Chris and Seth, and it's not good. You could tell that the two men are trying to put their differences aside in an effort to focus on finding Sebastian, but you can also tell that Chris Proudfoot is highly ticked off and frustrated with Seth Rogers, and Seth seems to be not angry, but more frustrated. Chris's anger is about the true crime community dissecting him, his wife Katie, their lives, their behavior since Sebastian went missing, their marriage, Chris's method that one time of punishing Sebastian when he used a belt. Chris is also furious about people speculating about his mother and stepfather, and he's also furious about Seth going on YouTube shows and talking about his ex-wife Katie. In the event you want to listen to the 3-hour show, I'm going to leave a link to that Web Sleuth show in the description. Now, when Chris Proudfoot turned up on the panel, Trisha of Web Sleuths gave him a very warm welcome. However, Chris came in hot, fuming, and ready to rumble. He said he was sickened and disgusted by the conversation and some of the comments in the chat. Chris apparently was listening to the show and became enraged. If he wanted to set the record straight and show that he's a very kind, gentle man, he failed. But if we look at the situation and we look at all the criticisms the Proudfoots have taken, some of this anger you can understand. To me, it felt like he was finally able to vent weeks and months of pent-up frustration and rage. He is clearly not happy with the intense scrutiny he and Katie have been facing on social media.
Who do we have here? I've put you on the platform.
You have me and Chris.
Hi, Chris Proudfoot.
Hello.
I really appreciate you coming here. I'm going to change the banner really quickly so everybody knows it's you. But I don't know how long you've been listening.
Long enough.
Okay, you sound angry. Talk to me.
Well,
What?
very.
Talk to me. We don't want to get you. The last thing we want to do, Chris, is cause problems between you and Seth. I swear to God.
Well,
So
I understand that, but let me help you with something.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of the information that I've been listening to on your show, coming from Chloe, the questions that are coming through people, it's very sickening and disgusting, to be personally honest with you.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
So let me go ahead and address a few things to help y'all out.
Okay.
Chloe, you're the PI. I haven't had a chance to talk to you.
You can hear the anger. Trisha picked up on it immediately. She greets him so warmly, and boom, she gets a mouthful.
I've been doing this for a long time, and let me tell you why people are asking personal questions about you and your wife, okay? It's because of the situation in which Sebastian has gone missing, and they're wondering if whatever happened between you and your wife, does it have something to do with Sebastian going missing? I swear to you, it's not to be nosy. It's not to be rude. It's just trying to figure out what happened to Sebastian. And
okay, so let me make this even crystal clear for you.
okay,
And everybody out there that's got all these negativity, disgusting comments and questions that y'all think you know anything about, when honestly you don't know a damn thing. And that's the problem. You assume, you speculate, all this crap. You have no idea what me, my family, my wife, everybody involved is going through, to include Seth, his mom, and everybody else.
One of the things that really ticked him off was Trisha and Chloe talking about his parents, Kathy Bowersox, and his stepfather, Terry Bowersox Sr., leaving for Alaska 4 days after Sebastian went missing. Listen to what Chris says about that.
So let me help y'all some.
Okay.
Y'all said some shit that's really, it's really none of your damn business, but since you brought it up, I'm clearing.
okay.
My parents didn't go to Alaska 2 days after he went missing.
I don't think
Why my
anybody said
parents went
that.
to Alaska was
That is
because
not-
my stepfather went for work.
Okay, nobody said they went 2 days after he went missing.
Oh, no,
They
it's
said-
out there, trust me, because I have
Okay, I
terabytes.
did not say that.
Nobody
I didn't say
said that
you.
here.
I
Okay,
said people.
okay.
Now, I have terabytes of videos of Seth on here saying some foul stuff. I've got videos of everybody and their comments out here.
But
Trust
let's
me. What I'm bringing to you is not that I'm just pulling stuff out of the air.
I understand. No, and Chris, I'm glad you cleared that up. That's a
So,
good.
by the way, they didn't go for a month.
Okay,
They went for 2 weeks. My stepdad went on business. My mom went with him. But it's really nobody's business.
Another issue that came up was that somebody was asking if the Proudfoots own a cemetery and a funeral home. Listen to how Chris answered that one.
so you don't own a cemetery and you don't own a funeral home. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, everybody, stop with that bullshit. All right.
Here, let me add this to the thing. We don't own a private plane. We don't own 78 pieces of property.
Mm-hmm.
We don't own a private yacht. What else do you guys want to come up saying that we own? Like we're millionaires or something. Like we've got this money growing off trees, which, by the way, it'd be great if we did, because I guarantee we wouldn't need anybody's help because he'd have been home by now.
Chris seems to be implying that if they had a ton of money, that would somehow make a difference in finding Sebastian. I'm not quite sure that's true.
You're correct. You just hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
You just hit the nail on the head. Seth has opened his mouth. He has said a lot of things he probably shouldn't. And he needs to learn how to close it because, quite honestly, none of that has anything to do with finding Sebastian.
Right. And you know what? But Chris, let's keep it that way because Seth has said he is not going to do that anymore, and he hasn't.
Bullshit. Let me explain to you why. That
Okay.
that Sunday when I went to that vigil and spoke to Seth, very calmly, very respectfully, we were having a good conversation. While everybody stood behind me and would snap them little pictures and stuff, Heather came up in the conversation. She saw us. It was not a aggressive conversation. It was actually a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But see, it wasn't 3 hours later. Seth was on YouTube on somebody else's show, sitting there. He's blaming Katie, my wife, for Sebastian's disappearance.
So I believe that Chris is referencing the show that Peter Hyatt did, where Seth was on the panel, but he really didn't speak much. Peter Hyatt made it pretty clear that he believes that Katie Proudfoot holds the answers as to what ultimately happened to Sebastian and why he went missing. And Hyatt bases this on his analysis of her language use and behavior in the interviews she's given. And I do believe that Seth agreed with Hyatt, and he said that he did believe that Katie had the answers because she was the last person with Sebastian. And I have to say, I have seen some comments that Seth Rogers has made in various chat rooms. One of them was that Sebastian is the only child of his that Katie decided to give birth to. So that is a very private detail, and it's something that I think doesn't really have any correlation to why Sebastian went missing. So in that instance, I can understand why Chris and Katie are upset. upset. Nobody wants their deepest, darkest secrets aired to the world. And in this case, if it has nothing to do with why Sebastian went missing, it shouldn't probably be said. Now, at one point, Chris noticed that somebody in chat accused him of being belligerent and drunk. This greatly angered Chris, said he's not drunk. I would say that he is somewhat belligerent. He's definitely abrasive. Now, the issue of Sebastian wearing pull-ups to school because apparently he has an incontinence problem from time to time also came up, and Chris Proudfoot said this.
Children with autism do have bladder and bowel movement issues to control themselves, but I'm not really worried that people can't read and do their own.
Well, but Chris, let me
stuff.
tell you.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and care about that either.
The topic of the Proudfoots tearing down Sebastian's flyers also came up, and Chris Proudfoot vehemently denied it. And he said if somebody says they saw this and they have video of it, then they should show the video. And he's right. They should produce the video if they saw them doing that. And then the second PI piped into the conversation, and she said that Katie had one request if they were to go on this show and talk about Sebastian. And that was that they mentioned that the family would like everybody to put Sebastian's flyers up wherever they are. Put them up. That's one way you can help. Trisha then asked Chris if he passed the polygraph. Apparently, Chris did take a polygraph through the TBI.
Did you pass the polygraph?
Yes, I sure did, with flying colors.
And it was TBI that gave it to you?
Yes, TBI gave it to me along with another agency.
Okay.
No, that was kept quiet because it's nobody. We kept it all quiet.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's great that you're telling us now.
Right, and Seth knew about it the day on that Tuesday when I took it and passed it. They called and told him that I passed it.
And, okay, well, maybe he was told he couldn't say anything.
No, he was told he could say something. They told him so he would try to keep his rhetoric down. That's why they told him.
Another really big question that came up was, what do you think, Chris, happened to Sebastian? And here's what he said.
For the love of God, I wished I had an answer. I wished we had something to go off of, but we
Chris,
don't.
I asked Seth this a few weeks ago, and so just no thought.
I'm gonna hear you out.
In your gut, spit it out. Doesn't matter if it sounds completely off the wall. What is your knee-jerk reaction to what happened?
Sebastian walked out of the house, stepped off the porch, and has vanished into thin air. That is what I think, because that is what I know.
And then PI Chloe said, but how do you know that? You seem so sure about it. How do you know that Sebastian walked out the front door barefoot and off the front porch and then vanished?
Unless this kid is just into thin air on my front porch, he sure had to go somewhere, so he had to walk off the front porch. Now, if you're trying to insinuate somebody was in my house or somebody's taking that child outside of my house, say
I'm not
that.
Insinuating anything. I'm asking, do you know that he walked out your front door? Do you know?
That he went out the front door?
Or any door?
Is that what you're asking?
Do you know?
Yeah, that's what we're asking.
Okay, thank you. I just need a confirmation. I don't play games here. So, just to make this real crystal clear, there's a back door. Every door in the house, when Katie got up that morning, was locked.
Okay.
Since it's already out there, there's a keypad on the front door. You don't need a key to unlock and lock my front door.
Mm-hmm.
But you need a key to lock every other door. And every other door was locked, folks.
So
Did Katie do that?
Do
And he
what?
walked out. And did Katie make sure all the other doors were locked? And could have Sebastian just walked out? Could he have walked out the front door?
Every door was locked.
So what you're saying is that the only possibility is the front door. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying the most conceivable way possible that this makes sense is that he walked out the front door.
Chris also confirmed that Sebastian left the house barefoot. Trisha of Websleuths then asked, could he have been running away from something? As in, did he tear out the front door without his shoes because he was afraid and he was running for his life? Chris didn't really answer that question. He said, well, he's a young boy. It was dark outside. God only knows. At this point in the show, Gray Hughes showed up. He wanted to talk to Chris Proudfoot, and it turns out that they have a very nice rapport. Apparently, they have spoken to each other on the phone, and Chris has respect for Gray Hughes, and Gray Hughes has respect for Chris Proudfoot. At this point, the discussion turned to the punishment that Chris Proudfoot doled out to Sebastian using a belt. By the way, I got the feeling that Chris Proudfoot enjoys speaking to men, maybe enjoys men, more than speaking to women. Just my opinion, I could be wrong. Trisha said that she feels like the use of a belt on a child's derriere is a form of abuse. Chris Proudfoot said that he did it to Sebastian years ago when Sebastian was younger, and also that he did it over his clothes so it wasn't on bare skin. Chris doesn't see this as a severe form of punishment because it didn't leave any bruises or marks. Gray Hughes chimed in and said that his mother, who he absolutely adores, used a belt on him when he was a child and also a hairbrush. And I will admit that my father once used a belt on me. One time I found it humiliating, and my mother did use a hairbrush on my derriere as well. I must have been a very naughty child. The point Gray Hughes made was that this type of punishment was more socially acceptable 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and today it's viewed in a totally different light. Now, apparently this belt issue, as I said, happened years ago, according to Chris Proudfoot. And so whatever Sebastian went to school, told his teacher about Chris Proudfoot is something different, and that triggered a visit from Child Protective Services to the Proudfoot home. Now, Chris has said that Sebastian falsely reported whatever it was he reported, and that he was told by this person from DCF or CPS that he could get in a lot of trouble for making false reports. I find it disturbing that CPS was out to that home at all, and this apparently happened in January or February. So this happened just before Sebastian went missing. Now, Chris Proudfoot says this has nothing to do with why Sebastian went missing. But of course, we don't know that. And it certainly makes the whole situation in terms of the home life that Sebastian was living under seem questionable. What was going on inside the home? Personally, I don't think it's I don't know if normal's the right word, but I don't think it's normal to have CPS coming to your home. That is always going to raise red flags. We saw this in the Summer Wells case. Chris Proudfoot was also asked about the clothing that Sebastian wore to the Texas Roadhouse on the day that he went missing, or the day before he went missing. Chris said that those clothes have been accounted for and that they were actually the items that the scent dogs used to track Sebastian's scent. Chris also clarified that about 13 to 18 different canines were used to track Sebastian. 3 of those apparently followed the same trail down to the retention pond. One of those dogs, one of the 3, actually dove into the pond. Chris said that the pond was drained, and of course there was no sign of Sebastian. To me, this makes it seem like Sebastian could have made that path down to that retention pond, either on his own accord, or running, or with someone. That the dog dove into the water made me think that maybe somebody could have put Sebastian's head under that water. I'm not an expert, I don't know, I'm just speculating. Could somebody have put his head under the water for nefarious reasons? Chris also stated that Sebastian was wearing black pants that would be like Adidas style workout pants, I guess, a black long-sleeved t-shirt that either had an image of something related to Halloween, to Minecraft, or to Star Wars, but he couldn't say for sure which image was on that black t-shirt. When Chris was asked if all the activities that Katie and Sebastian did on Sunday, February 25th, if that was normal for Sebastian, Chris got mad, and he said it was just Katie and Sebastian spending time bonding. The PI named Chloe was concerned that Sebastian, as an autistic child, might have been overstimulated that day, thanks to all the things he did. Chris rejected that notion. He insisted that Sebastian was in a good mood on Sunday. The way Chloe was speaking, it made me think that some of the people she may have spoken to have said that maybe, and I'm guessing, that Sebastian was acting strangely that day, that maybe he seemed upset about something. I'm speculating, I'm not sure if that happened. Just sounded like Chloe was sort of insinuating that, but I could be wrong. Don't take that as fact. I'm going to play this exchange for you. It's a little bit long, but I think it's worth hearing.
So, Chris, I understand like every marriage is different and husband-wife aspect. You seem very protective of Katie and her having conversations with or without you. I said before you came on, I do believe that Katie is the one who, and I'm not saying it's because she knows what happened to Sebastian, but she was the last person that was with him. And so she does hold the most information, at least up until the point that he went missing.
What information do you think she holds?
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Well, then do me a favor. Let's just get to it.
Okay.
Don't pour gravy on the mashed potatoes. Just serve the stuff up.
Chris, I'm really trying to be respectful, and this is a very...
Now, I am too. So please just get to it.
Okay,
No,
so
you're
we
wrong.
would really love to hear from Katie about his body language that day. We've heard from others who are not necessarily good sources about his body language at the bowling alley and his body language here and there. And so we're just really trying to pick up on Sebastian's mood because it could help us understand what led to him walking away off the front porch out the front door.
Well, that is something that if she decides to answer, that's on her. But what I know is even on video, Sebastian was having a great day. He was in a great mood. He got to go to BJ's. He had a colossal popcorn. He hung out with family. He went and played video games at Strike and Spare. After that, he went and had dinner at Roadhouse, Texas Roadhouse. He ate his whole meal. I mean, everything in the video, even the videos that Seth has seen, he doesn't show any negative signs of he's upset or anything like that. As far as we all know, Sebastian had a great day.
No, I mean, it sounds like a really great day. I mean, they did a lot. I was just curious. And like I said, I mean, every relationship is different and you're protective of Katie and who she communicates without you. And I think that has been a little bit difficult.
But, Ray, hold on a second. But for the record, Katie can speak when she so chooses, and she's done interviews without me.
No, I'm not talking about interviews.
But she spoke without me.
Okay.
After that, Trisha of Websleuths jumped in and asked about whether or not Sebastian wanted to go live with his father, Seth.
I want to clear up something that Chris said about Sebastian going to live with Seth. And Chris, you may ask, what does this have to do with Sebastian missing? It's all part of the narrative. It could mean he ran away. And that is, Chris, did you not say that he was not looking forward to going to live with his father?
Yes, I did state that.
Seth, did you know this?
No.
Chris, do you want to elaborate?
And I'll tell you why.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will be glad to elaborate.
Become a question.
Hold on, Chris, hold on. I'm sorry, Seth, start over. And then, Chris, we'll go to you. Seth, go ahead.
That I know why I was putting him in online school. He needed his therapy to actually have been started with ABA, so on and so forth, before I put him back into the situation, because he's not ready for certain things.
Okay. So he was going to go...
I'm not going to set my son up for failure. I want my son to succeed.
He was going to homeschool until he was ready to go back to regular school. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And it's not really homeschool. I mean, it's just online school.
Okay. Online. Right. Online school. That's a better term. I'm sorry. I should have said homeschool. Right, online school, totally different.
Want the facts? Let's get the facts straight.
Okay.
So yes, I did tell you Sebastian was not excited about going to his father's house because online school.
Online
Seth
school.
was aware of this because Seth stood in my house with me, Katie, and Sebastian in my kitchen and had this conversation where Seth asked his son about, you don't want to go to online school? And Sebastian's retort was, no, I don't. But I don't really care about playing tit for tat. I understand that this may be a reason why he wanted to run away, so to speak, if that's the case.
Right.
But we're not going into this. We're not going to play this tit for tat on social media. We're not doing this.
Okay, Seth, go ahead.
Chris, unbeknownst to you, had already talked to Sebastian. He knew this wouldn't be a permanent thing. And me and him had already spoke.
Well, that right there's a conversation you should have had with Katie and myself about what your plans were.
I'm sorry, do you want?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
What Seth was saying is that if I had known the conversation that him and Sebastian had, then I would know the whole thing. But the downside is that's where Seth should have had that same conversation with me and Katie.
My feeling about this online school thing, and this is me speculating, but that this was Seth not wanting to put his child back into school after the incident where he allegedly pulled out his pineapple to show it to the other kids. I think Seth was worried about Sebastian behaving in an appropriate manner at school, and that he wanted to have time to prepare him for that. And if this is true, then it underscores how traumatic the SA experience was for Sebastian. After that, PI Chloe jumped in to once again ask about Sebastian's body language on Sunday before he disappeared.
Quick, Chris, the day that they had on Sunday with the spaghetti pancakes and bragging to family and BJ's and Texas Roadhouse and bowling and all of these, like, it sounds like the best day ever. Was that like a normal weekend for them, or was it like, it just...
If it had something to do with his disappearance, I would understand that, but it doesn't.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, I understand that. That's why we're making this clear.
It is interesting how sure Chris is that that has nothing to do with Sebastian's disappearance.
And that's
Right.
why I asked about his day, because I
Let's
didn't
go back
know.
to the day. Okay, go ahead, Megan.
No, okay, so Chris, you don't know me very well. I have 2 decades of experience working with autistic children in different capacities. So I do understand they are all different. I do understand that that day may have been very overstimulating for him. So that's why I was asking if that was a normal day for him. And if it wasn't, that just gives me more information that maybe he was very overstimulated that day.
Chris?
All right, so one more time, I'm so sorry.
Right there, I think Chris was distracted because I suspect that Katie was talking to him in the background, perhaps telling him what to say. This is me speculating, that's not a fact. I'm just thinking that might explain why he paused like that.
I was just saying, in my experience with autistic children, obviously they're all different. But if this was not a normal day for Sebastian on Sunday when he went and did all of these things, and it sounds like he was gone from home for a while, if this wasn't a normal day for him, would this have been an overstimulating day for him? Is this something normal? Does he normally go to BJ's and bowling and all of these things on a weekend, or was this kind of like a special thing? And if it was a special thing, what caused it to be special? Was there an occasion?
If it was a special thing, a mother and a son bonding and just having a good time.
I'm not being ugly at all.
I'm not. I'm making the statement.
Is this a normal day for them on a weekend? For them to do all
our days fluctuate. Monday through Friday, we're a working family, just like everybody else out there. And when the weekend comes, that's when you get a lot of stuff done. You go a lot of places, you do a lot of things. And a lot of times, that's where, you go and spend time with your kids and do extra things. Sebastian's not in sports like most kids. So we don't spend ball time at the ballpark. When Seth has Sebastian on the weekends, he goes and does fishing and things like that with Sebastian just as well. I mean, Seth works long hours. I work long hours.
And
You
I'm
know,
not
I
saying
mean,
any
so
of that
you
is
gotta-
suspicious at all, Chris. I'm just asking if that was normal. Because if it wasn't normal and he was overstimulated, that could be a reason for him to have ran out of the house.
No.
Okay.
He's not overstimulated.
Okay.
I also want to know why Chris is so sure that he wasn't overstimulated, because remember, Chris said he was in Memphis, and that has been confirmed. So how can he be so sure? It has crossed my mind that perhaps Katie didn't tell Chris what exactly went down on Sunday before Sebastian went missing. Later in the discussion, Chris tears into Seth because Seth asked about a rumor that's been going around that Chris's parents, Kathy and Terry Bowersox, might have Sebastian, might have sent him to some sort of boot camp. And there's another rumor as well, and that is that people have come up to the PIs, and I think to Seth as well, say that they saw Kathy Bowersox parked at Warsham's, which is a grocery store, on the day Sebastian went missing. I'm not going to play Chris's reply. Let me just say that he went ballistic. What really seems to trigger him is if somebody speculates about something that his parents might have done or that Katie might have done. This really gets Chris irate. You know, Seth has been trying to get Chris and Katie to agree to have a person named Mr. Mathis be the spokesperson for all three of them. And I think that the person who could benefit the most from having such a spokesperson is Chris Proudfoot. But apparently he's been very slow to look into Mr. Mathis, and Seth, wanting to approve the spokesperson, has been asking, did you have a chance to look at him? What do you think? Can we hire him? Bottom line, I don't think Chris Proudfoot did himself any favors by losing his temper so often during this chat and by talking over people and using not so nice language. It's not the best look, but it does convey how frustrated he is. I'm going to stop now because that was a whole lot. I hope you'll let that simmer and let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Thank you to Websleuths for agreeing to let me use that footage, and I'll see you next time on Bed Crime Stories.